Jay, welcome to the Leaders Who Care series.
It's great to be here. Great to be here. Even though you're a Montreal Canadian, I love you anyway.
I love you, brother, and no matter what, hey, listen, I always did not like Brad Marchand unless he played for Team Canada and now the Florida Panthers, and that's when I do love him. But aren't the greatest players the ones that are always booed by the opposing fans? And it tells you something.
It sure does. All except for Bill Lambert. He is both awful and genuinely awful. And even if he was on your own team, you wouldn't want him, in my
Okay,
opinion. But
well,
Brad Marchand is, he's a good lick.
he is. He is a good guy, and he's a fierce player, which I love. But let's start with you. Could you give a initial introduction of who you are, not what you do yet, which
hmm
is what guys always start with, but where you're from originally, where you are now, maybe as much as you feel comfortable talking about family, which I think is important. Maybe something you never told anybody before you want to reveal to the world now. That always becomes interesting. So share a little bit about. Do they call you Sarge, by the way?
When I was a little boy, I was Sarge. And what all the little boys in the neighborhood would say, can you imagine when you go into the army, you'll be Sergeant Sargent. And that tickled kids, re just tickled them pink,
Well, sometimes the simplest things are the funniest things,
for sure.
depending on. So tell us about Jay.
I grew up in downtown Boston in a little community called Brighton, Massachusetts. I grew up in a working class blue collar family. My folks fell madly in love when they were 12 and 13 years old. My mother walked by a window and a little boy was playing the drums. She said, I wonder who's playing those drums. She called out, who's playing the drums? My father opened up the window and they fell in love.
And
And
you
they got,
remember that?
well, I've heard the story about 1,000 times.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Stop me if I told you this, but I'm going to tell you anyway.
Yeah.
That's a great
So
love story.
so they didn't have enough money when they gave birth to me. So they had me, and they didn't have their own apartment. They didn't have a car. They didn't have their own apartment. They both worked downtown Boston. They got on a streetcar, and my father sold ties at Filene's, and my mother sold muffins at Jordan Marsh. And they
The
left
whole
me with
muffin or just the top of the
the
muffin?
big muffins. Oh my God, Jordan! If you've ever those blueberry muffins with the sugar on top. Woo! Anyway, they left me with my maternal grandmother, Nana Lil. Nana Lil. And Nana Lil was old school. You can relate, I'm sure. If you said anything wrong, you got your mouth washed out with that Jewish soap. I don't, Rukiak or something like that. If you then got even worse, you got a terrific spanking. And if you got even worse, you got locked in a closet. Now, I tell you that story because I adore my Nana Lil.
Of
No
course.
matter what, I just adored her. And what my folks taught me, and I wrote a book, and I got to give my folks a big shout out. They never had a nickel. They were broke. We didn't move out of my grandparents' apartment. We lived in one room in their small apartment. We didn't move out till I was 5 years old. And when we moved to an apartment right around the corner, within about 100 feet. Back in the day, families stuck together like that.
What a crazy concept.
Yeah, what a crazy concept.
Hmm.
And so my folks were dreamers, and they taught me, they didn't mean to, but by example, they taught me to be a serial entrepreneur because they always worked. My father had two jobs, delivered newspapers, Teamster at night, daytime Boston redevelopment. My mother never stopped working in a department store. But at the end of the day, they always thought they were going to make it. They were going to get rich. We were going to move from Brighton, Massachusetts to Brookline, one street over, but real estate like off the hook. You get it, right?
Hmm.
And I would hear that story. We're going to move to Brookline. We're going to move to Newton, and they never, ever, ever, ever were doubtful. They never were disparaged. They never were defeated. And they tried everything. My mom and dad taught mambo and cha cha lessons in our little living room. My mother, Jewish bubby that she was, taught Chinese cooking in this dinky little kitchen. They showed, but we sold shoes. Shoes. They'd buy black patent leather pumps. My mother would put rhinestones on the toe, and we would sell them 2 nights a week, Tuesday and Thursday, in the living room. None of this made any money.
They
They
were the
made,
first, they were the first home offices.
yeah, for sure, for sure. But I'm going to tell you a sad story before I tell you a good story. The sad story is they picked up the reproduction rights to tragedy and comedy, the classic tragedy and comedy imagery in clown form. The two lovely idiots ran off thousands of clown reproductions that they had no money to do. And then they put an ad in the New Yorker with all the money they had left. And we came home. I came home from school. They came home from work. And we looked in the little slot. We thought it was going to be buckets of envelopes with $10 bills. We got 3 orders. That was our best day. And I swear to God, they were not discouraged. I mean, they were discouraged for a day, but that's all they gave it. And they just moved on. Eventually, my mother, and this is a clue as to why I wrote the book, because I am an entrepreneur. My mother found some glass that she loved on the Cape.
Hmm.
Bill Seidenstricker's art glass in Dennis on the Cape. She walks into the store, falls in love, goes up to the owner, Bill, who later on became a dear friend, and said to Bill, I could sell this glass in Boston. You're here on the Cape with a beautiful retail store. If you consign me this art glass, we'll schlep it to Boston in the back of our car, and I will go find Hadassah's, any trade shows that she could afford, and that glass money, I'm so proud of her, put my brother through 4 years of Harvard. But no debt whatsoever, put my kid brother through Harvard on the glass money. So what I learned was the spirit of entrepreneurship directly from my mom and dad.
Yeah,
That's the
that's
part.
a great story to share, and I appreciate it. It's funny, I don't think I've ever seen my parents exercise, but that's because, like you said, they were always doing something. You know, they were always working or this, taking care of the house. They were, I mean, that was the exercise apparently.
Yeah, that was it.
That's crazy. You have brothers, sisters?
I have a kid brother, the one that went through Harvard.
Hmm.
And my kid brother is an interesting story. It allows me to tell a story that I would love to share. My kid brother is a multimillionaire. God bless him. He's done very well. He became, and I won't go through the detail, but he had 30,000 people on his sales team in a major Fortune 100 company and
Well,
huge success. My nephews and nieces are spectacular children. He's done very well. He's had a marriage that lasted from Boston University. When he was at Harvard, he met a BU girl, and they've been together for the last 50 years. God bless him. Great success story. You know what he can't do? He can't do probably what you, but obviously what I do. I exist in this little home office. I have never had a shred of infrastructure or structure around me. My kid brother can operate when he has an executive secretary, when he has a washroom, when he has a designated space, when he has an entire structure. He's come to me over a long lifetime because we're very close brothers and said, you know, Jay, I'd like to be like you. I'd like to just start a business in the garage and have it turn into an empire. I think I'm going to do that. Can you give me advice? And I would give him advice, and he would quit within a month because he needed structured environments. And it is what we entrepreneurs can do. It's
no,
special.
I totally get it because you know, one of my companies is an executive search firm, and I have corporate people saying, "Man, I would love to work in a startup. I'd love to work in something like that and whatever." And then I say, I let it go, talk and talk, and say, "What do you do when your laptop breaks?" Well, I go to my whole IT department. And they fix it. Well, there's no IT department,
Yeah.
so you know they romanticize what it would be like, but it's like working all the time and not getting burnt out because you're thriving in that environment, or you don't, basically. And which is not doesn't make people good or bad, it just makes people the right fit or not for something.
100%,
So what were you
100%.
guys like when you were kids? Did you have
Um,
like the lemonade stand with some structure, or did you have one?
Well, my there's a brother in between, and he went immediately to heaven. He died in his crib.
Mm,
So
wow,
when and it was obviously a very sad moment in time for the
yeah.
family. My brother was a replacement baby, and he's 6 years younger than me, and so our dynamic has always been me the boss, him that kind of a thing. We love one another, but and my brother. What's interesting about my brother is we both went to the same public high school. We went to Boston Latin School, the oldest high school in America, formed in 1635,
Mm,
1 year before Harvard University. And
wow.
when you walked into as a seventh grader, it was a 6 year experience if you made it, as a seventh grader, you walked into this big auditorium with all of the framers of the Constitution, the signers of the direct independence, blah, blah, blah. So up above you was Samuel Adams and Ben Franklin. And you go into this auditorium, and the headmaster says, "Look left, look right. Only one of you will be here to graduate. We're going to flunk out 700 of you, 300 will last." I tell you the story because my brother ranked 11th among these geniuses.
Wow.
I mean, it was bright kids. My brother was 11th, came home every night, did 3 to 5 hours of homework. He was amazing. I got through it. I was second to the last. I made it. I made it. I made it. God bless me. But when they said we needed to do 3 hours of homework to make it, in my little head, remember, I was just a little boy, just a bar mitzvah boy. I said, "No way, Jose. I'm so smart that I'm going to do it without doing that kind of homework." And I did get through. And you know how I did it? I'm going to give you my formula. I did it by not doing my homework and having for 6 years in a row, six classes each year, all day long, tell stories about why I didn't do my homework. I became the greatest storyteller of a lifetime by not doing the work at Boston Latin School. It created the whole rest of my life. I could spin a yarn about, and of course, I needed
So how did you
variety.
pass the grades if you weren't?
Barely, barely,
Oh,
just
okay.
barely, barely. 325th, I want to emphasize it again, out of 326, but I didn't flunk out. So, anyway, so you just never know what's preparing you
Right.
for the rest of your life.
Plus, you do know, I compare a lot of things to sports, excuse me, and the worst player in any professional league is a star. So even though you might have even been last, you were still ahead of 350 or 60 or whatever other people.
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
for sure, for sure.
So good for you. And you probably had extra energy to do other stuff at the same time.
Yeah, girls is what I had extra energy. I had enough money. I worked enough jobs from the time I was 6 or 7 years old. I shoveled snow. I delivered newspapers. I was a soda jerk at the Melvin Drug. I delivered groceries for Chansky Supermarket. I mean, it goes on and on because my folks were broke, and I knew that at 16 they'd have no money to buy me even a lousy car, let alone a good-looking car. And in my world, the way to get the pretty girl in my neighborhood
The
was to
car.
have a car when you were 16 years old. And
Yeah.
that's all I thought about from the age 8 to 16 was having the money to buy a car. And I'm very proud to say, when I was 16, I bought a 1958 Oldsmobile 88, black paint, red leather, white convertible top, gorgeous. And I had a good time in that car.
I can't even imagine, nor do I want to know right now. But there is a lot to be said for teaching resilience, teaching persistence, teaching, how to keep up the energy and the passion to do stuff with a goal and all that type of stuff. So now I wanna ask you how you. That's a great background for, and there's something to be said for getting back to basics again, if you will, some of the stuff that you did that, I mean, I delivered TV guides. I sold newspapers, as a summer job or, no, stuff like that. I had a lady, I can't even imagine what the TV guides were like, a ridiculous amount, 25 cents or something. And I had a lady that tipped me double what the TV guide was every time. And
Ooh.
and and I was just like so proud of myself because she was so nice to me and everything. And it relates to something else I'll talk about how we're influenced during the times we're growing up and how that makes an impact. But I want to ask you some key points that we talked a little bit about. I had a geography teacher in school that once told me, Mark, well, it was grade 5 or 6. They don't teach geography anymore, which I think is ridiculous. But he said, we could put, he was talking to the class, you guys could put initials after your name if you want to sound like you've got credentials. And he said, Mark, for example, you could be Mark Sadovnik, MHC. And I said, I was like, what, 12 or 13? What's MHC? He said, member of a hockey club. I said, that sounds pretty good. Well, and I know you talk about credentials and talk
I
about
do.
credentials being overrated. But that's what he told us. So tell me about why you think credentials are overrated.
I teach entrepreneurs. I've built very large organizations with hundreds of thousands of distributors. So I've been very immersed in watching people's process. And when someone comes up and says, what's the number one thing that holds most people back? For me, what comes up immediately is credentials. People say, I'm not qualified to take the next step. I'm not experienced enough to take this thing. I need another degree. I got to go to a school. I got to take a clinic. To me, I think it's the number one thing that stops entrepreneurs, stops ambitious people, hungry people from growing and creating yet another part of their life. And I what I wanted to share with everyone real quickly in preface is, of course, I'm a great respecter of education. All three of my daughters went to wonderful colleges, got great degrees. Two of three of them are using their degrees to great benefit, helping other people, enriching their lives. I certainly, Mark, if you and I were, God forbid, in an accident and we were being driven to a hospital and we needed surgery, I would be praying that the doctor had credentials, that they went to medical school, intern, resident, and knew what they were doing. But in soft skills, in being a business person, in being a career developer, and certainly in being an entrepreneur, I think people just wait too long. They're scared to death to make a move. And I'm just going to tell one brief story, if you'll indulge me, about this.
Hmm.
There was a moment in time when I was a tennis professional. I owned and operated a tennis academy. I had a summer camp. I had 30 instructors working for me. I had a pro shop with stringing money. I was a young kid with a slim waistline, hitting tennis balls and making six figures 50 years ago. I mean, it was an amazing experience, except I was bored out of my mind. People
Hmm.
say, well, when do you move? You move when you either lose big and you got to replace, or when, for me, you lose patience. I was out on that court, everyone thinking I was being happy, but I wasn't. I needed to do something more cerebral, I needed to do something larger. So I went to the wealthiest people I know, and I was teaching phenomenally wealthy families in the New England area, including the Kraft family, who now, of course, famously opened the Patriots. I taught Jonathan when he was a tiny tot. Myra, God rest her soul, she died of cancer a while back. But they were all students of mine. So I went to these wealthy families and I said to them, who am I? What do I do next? You've known me for 7 years. You've watched me in action. I'm done with this. Don't tell anyone, but I don't want to do this for another 20 or 30 years. This is not what I was
Hmm.
born to do. What do I do next? And they all said, you should sell something, but with your ego, you can't sell pencils. You've got to sell big things. And so one of them, God bless him, Mark Roberts, whose family owned Atlantic Steel, largest steel company in New England, set me up with a guy named George Nana, the king of franchising in the United States. Now, I had enough intention and enough intelligence, you would say enough sachel, that before going to meet with George, because I didn't have an iota of business experience, I went and bought a blue suit at Simon and Sons in Copley Square, my first blue suit. I went and bought a Mark Cross briefcase. I
Hmm.
never used it, but I brought it because I wanted to at least walk in and look like I could be on his franchise development team.
Hmm.
I walk in, and the moment I walk through the door, it looks like Pope Leo meets a Visigoth. He's behind a desk so large, it's larger than my bedroom at home, his desk. And he's way down the end. And I immediately assess, well, this guy's got a major set of guliones. This is a powerful person. And I knew intuitively, I was still a kid, but you got to meet power with power. You can't be chicken. So I get in front of him, I sit down, and he says, Mark Roberts says you're a talent. And then I might put you on the team to send you out to fancy hotels and give speeches to sell $250,000 franchises. Let me see your resume. I'd like to read that first. I said, I don't have a resume. And I didn't forget to bring it. I don't have one. He
Hmm.
goes, wow, really? Well, then talk me through your business experience. I said, I don't have any business experience. In fact, I don't like business. In fact, if I'm at an airport and I'm getting literature to read on the plane, the last thing in the world I would ever read would be Fortune magazine or Entrepreneur magazine or Success. Those are things that don't matter to me. I'd be reading Sports Illustrated Sports magazine. You get it. So he's sitting there, he's perplexed. He said, well, why did you come in today? I said, because I heard, and you tell me if this is true, that you send people out on the road. They're in the best hotels in the United States of America, the Fairmont Hotel on Nob Hill in San Francisco, the Plaza on Central
Hmm.
Park South. You put them in big rooms, you put Wall Street Journal ads, you qualify the room, and someone gives a 45 to 60-minute speech to get them to do something. Is that it? Is that the modus operandi? He goes, yeah, that's it. I said, then hire me. Put me on the team. Because if I'm standing up and talking, you just tell me what you want them to do, and I will get them to do it. I'm the best you ever met. So now he's perplexed. And inside of that perplex, I push myself. I say, listen, don't take my word for it. Is that your brochure right over there? He had a little trifold brochure. I'm going to take that trifold brochure. I'm going to go sit in your lobby. You load this massive office up with all of the Goombas, your sales force, your experts, your managers, your co-owners. Put them in this room, and I'll be back in 15 minutes to give you a speech. If the speech kills, put me on the road. And if I stink, show me the door. Well, Mark, I wouldn't be telling you the story if it had a sad ending. I come back in and I did two things that are important. I want everyone to catch it. I noticed at the minute I opened that door that everyone on his sales team, all these guys, right? Killers, hated me. I was the new guy, the ingenue, the guy, I could feel the loathing. I deleted them. I teach this. I deleted them. It's like the drummer in Spinal Tap blowing up over and over again. I deleted them. I look at George because I have an audience of one and I give an 8 to 10 minute speech. When the thing is done, he throws everybody out, sits me in front of him and says, kid, you didn't say one thing right. There wasn't one detail. There was nothing was accurate. But boy, can you give a speech. We
Hmm.
can smooth you out. You can learn the content, but I'm going to put you on the road. No credentials whatsoever led me into this, what turned out to be a fabulous career for a decade.
No, great story. One of my favorite quotes is Maya Angelou's quote, which is most people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you've done, but they'll always remember how you made them feel.
Ah, I love it. I love it. Yeah.
That's what you're talking about, and that's what I work on all the time with people I talk about. One of the things you brought up that brings me to um, some of the things we're talking about here. We put too much weight on credentials, on categories, and we work with a lot of athletes, work with a lot of executives in general, but very often they're defined as one thing, only an athlete, or they're defined as only a doctor, or only this or only that. Actually the only time it is good is if you get somebody that made it big in some startup and thinks they actually know everything because they made it big in some startup. That's not true either, for a long shot. But you talk about reinvention at any age. Um, Talk about it with respect to as well, um, why it's important that, and I think it's important for mental health. I not think, I know it's important for mental health too, because if someone is only defined as a baseball player and then their career's over at 38, which is still very young, they have to reinvent themselves. Do you talk about reinventing yourselves before? Before your definition's over as an athlete or something, or at the time when you got to reinvent yourself, oh geez, I don't have anything anymore, I got to do it then, or what does that look like?
You know, some people only think about change, substantial change of direction when things go wrong.
Right.
And that's not me. I mean, I've had things go wrong and I've had to reinvent. I could tell that story too. But like in the tennis story, I was at the top of my trade and I was unhappy. So, what I teach is always be ready. Have a secondary plan. And it's not a plan. I'm an anti planner. I'm saying you're going to need to find something you love. You need, if you find, and we've all heard the old canard, find something you love, do it. You'll never work another day as long as you live. Today, I get a chance to kibitz with you. Is this work? God, no, it's not work.
Right.
You're the third person today. I've had this lovely experience. Every one of them, like a snowflake, is a little bit different. There's variety, but this is what I love to do. This is what I was put on the planet to do. So my point is always, what did Gladys? I mean, let's go back to my mom's story. She fell in love with that glass. She didn't know she was going to build a lucrative glass selling business the hour before she got there. So, what I'm always saying is, what do you love? What intrigues you? What would you do if you weren't being paid? If money was no issue, what would you be doing anyway? Because if you find your passions
Right.
and you add your specific value to what you care about, you'll think about it all day long. You know, I have a whole life here. I've got grandchildren that are in college, graduates. I've got a new grandchild that's 3 months old. It's Father's Day. There's a lot going on. I got a wife, God bless her. I got a lot going on. But because I love this brand new business I just launched, Mark, there's a part of me that thinks about it morning, noon, and night. Do you understand?
Yeah, of
Not
course.
because I'm in a structured environment and I got a boss saying, "Did you think about that report? I need to." Nobody needs to tell me what to think about. I love what I do. I think about it and I grow it. So, in anticipation, I think people can turn their passions and their hobbies and their preoccupations into a business model if under pressure or not under pressure. And my only other caveat is, and I teach this to all entrepreneurs, how many people, Mark, have you met who become millionaires on an Excel spreadsheet? They'll give you this malarkey. I've got this widget, and the market size is 100 million. And if I only get a quarter of a percent of the market, and then they show you an Excel spreadsheet where they become wealthy. To me, this is baloney.
I know
It's
someone who got made a lot of money on Excel spreadsheets.
who?
The guy that invented the Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, that guy. Exactly. So my point is that love something, have the patience to let it grow. I'm doing something right now. This is my eighth reinvention. I'm about to be 79 years old and I'm starting something from scratch. I'm having a blast. And I've told the little team that I've put around me, all of whom are working for nothing because they know that I've made many, many millionaires. I've been very blessed. So they're hanging around to watch whether Coach Jay can do it again. None of them are making bupkis, nothing, but they're giving me many, 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 many hours. But I tell everyone we're going to be in the red. We're going to be a little inexpensive business. We're just going to focus and concentrate and have a good time. So I say find your passion and be patient. And the sooner you can find it, even when you're up, especially your athletic people, I mean, they got to find new gigs pretty soon. Anyway,
Yeah,
that's what I think.
and there's so much to talk about. We have a saying in LA. You probably may have heard it that you got to leave them wanting more, so we can do a sequel. So I got so
Yeah.
many things to more to talk about. But one other thing before my final question on this part, I've always believed that it's all about experiences, right? People, things that people cherish the most are experiences. It could be with your new grandson. It could be like in making a deal. It could be, and you talk about there's no small moments, and I share that with people all the time as well. That think about all the accomplishments, the moments you've had. Think about the experiences that you've had. Talk about those when you're trying to achieve something, because people love to hear those good stories. Talk about why there are no small moments.
You know, you would think, and I don't know if you would think this, Mark, because you're a pretty bright guy. You would think, oh, Jay is a jolly guy. He's a social person. He's a people person. I am not. I'd rather be alone in this room in the dark reading poetry. Do you understand?
I
My
do.
wife, my wife gets me to go out 3 times a year on a double date. That's it. That's the quota. I don't want to be. But when I'm engaged, I am selectively gregarious. I am really good when I'm engaged, but I don't want it. And one night when I owned the franchise development company and it was very, very, very new, and we weren't doing that well, somebody said there's a dinner party over in Brookline, Massachusetts, and there's going to be a lot of wealthy people there. I can get you an invite. And I got to tell you, when I heard that, it made me nauseous. The last thing in the world I wanted to do is put on a dandy outfit, shower, smell good, and go and kibitz with people at a dinner party. But I got my fanny in the car over to that party, and God bless it. Small moment. I'm sitting next to someone that all of the youngsters who are watching this don't know. Maybe you do. But in 1981, there were only four computers in the world: TRS-80s, Ataris, Commodore 64s, and Apple IIes. We were operating on a CPM operating system with 5.25-inch floppy disks. There were only three pieces of software. So I'm at this cocktail party, and I turn to the guy next to me, and I say, "What do you do?" And he says, I am the developer of Lotus 123. I don't know what that is. Could have been an alien for all I knew. I said, what's Lotus 123? And he describes what he has. And I start to learn in 1981, oh my God, there's going to be a big wave. This personal computer thing is going to go crazy. It was before Macs, it was before IBM came in with
Mhm.
its PC. And I'm listening to him tell this story. And then I do the most important thing that we teach in influence and persuasion. I said to him, if you were me, I own the largest and most powerful franchise development company on planet Earth. And what should I be picking up in this space? What should I be looking for? You've convinced me this is going to be huge. What could I find to franchise? And he said, oh, it's simple. Computerland is putting thousands of units in the United States immediately. They're selling a $5,000 box, but they don't want to handle any of the software. Put a software retail store across the street from a Computerland and you'll go nuts. You'll make lots of money. So I am just excited out of my mind. I said, well, are there any software retail stores? He said, well, since I sell software, I know the only four that exist. There's one here in Boston, there's one in Washington, D.C., there's one in Chicago, and one in L.A. Now, remember, I don't have a pot to pee in at this moment. Can everyone get it? I mean, I've got a little company with terrible clients. Nobody's making any money. I got a staff I have to feed. And I'm on the verge of finding in my mind, the big one. I take every penny I have in the world, Mark, and I
That's
buy
good.
plane tickets the next day. I see the Boston location, it sucks. I go off to Washington, D.C. If anything, it's worse. The Chicago one was marginally better. By the time I get to L.A., I'm at the end of the rope. But when I walk in on a Saturday afternoon, now, by the way, it's not Bloomingdale's, it's not merchandise, it's
Of
not
course.
branded, but it's got four card tables with all four of the computers I described before and copter heads. We used to call them copter heads from Caltech. The place is packed on a Saturday after. The only one with action. I go over to this blonde kid behind the counter, looks like he's 12 years old, a skateboarder or a surfer. I tell him that I make giants in the franchise industry. I'm finding the one software retail store that I'm going to make the brand leader. I need to find the owner immediately. And the kid says to me, I'm an owner. I said, oh, Muzzle Top. Are you a decision maker? He said, oh no, I'm a minor owner. I said, well, who's the major owner? I got to go see them. He goes, the owner is George Tate. Now I want everyone to see if everyone remembers this story. George Tate is Ashton Tate, one of the three developers of software in the world at that moment in time. And he owns this dinky little 1,500 square foot on Pico Boulevard. I lose my mind. I'm so excited. I say, give me his address. I got to go. He gives me his address. It's in Venice, not the gentrified Venice where my kid just bought an 1,100 square foot house for 2 million one. Do you understand? This is the early days of Venice in a crappy neighborhood. I'm in a cab. I don't know where I'm going. I keep saying to the cab driver, are you sure we're going in the right direction? I think I'm going to Bel Air to a mansion next to Magic Johnson, and we're going in these terrible streets. And he
Mhm.
goes, this is it. He stops in front of an apartment house. I walk up a flight of stairs. I bang on a screen door, and a guy comes out. Now, remember, the other image is I think I'm going to a mansion, and I think I'm going to get this, Gregory Peck like character, this gorgeous Cary Grant guy. A guy comes out with a cigarette hanging from his lip, no shirt, big flabby belly, and short shorts. I mean, it was a horrendous image.
That's
I go,
because
I'm
he's
look.
been sitting in the house so long doing the developing.
So I say, I'm looking for George Tate. He goes, I'm George Tate. I said, well, good. God bless you, because I'm the guy that's going to make that store that you're an owner of the largest franchise chain in the history of retail software. And he goes, come on in. 1 hour later, on a yellow pad, I have gained the exclusive rights to selling that franchise. And I want to tell everyone who has a half a brain, not only did I get the exclusive rights and a really good commission on every $25,000 franchise fee, but I talked him into a $75,000 launching budget so I'd have the money to put myself on the road. I didn't want to debate that later on. Needless to say, it's a huge success. In 18 months, we sell 154 of those units. So don't let anyone tell you that silly moment where I didn't want to put on a suit, where I didn't want to get dressed up and smell good, go to that ridiculous dinner party, meeting Mitch Kapor, led to one of the big business moments of my life. So I'm always telling people, don't make judgments, just keep pursuing, get active, go. I have taken so many, I don't know about you, Mark, but I tell people, go take a bad gig in order to get a good one. But you can't make money in the Barca Lounger. Be active. You don't know which moment's going to turn into big one. And I got many little moments turning into big moments. But that's that story,
And
Mark.
there's a trend of adding up a bunch of small moments that turn into a big moment all the time too. I know I interviewed once just really quick in Winnipeg with the largest real estate company. They were recruiting me out of Deloitte, and it's a Saturday morning. I'm in a three-piece suit, 24 years old, nervous. I'm meeting all the executives, the CEO, the CFO, the head of planning and whatnot. They're in jeans, and I'm really pissed off that they're in jeans. And they said to me, "So how would you like to live in Winnipeg?" I was really sarcastic back then. I'd like to live in Winnipeg. I said, luxuriously, how else? And
Yeah,
and for it felt like 2 hours of silence, but it was probably like 12 seconds of
right,
silence until they started laughing and said, "Oh, good, kid's got a sense of humor or something." And the first place they sent me out to was the Mennonite community to I was the finance guy helping the sales guys, but I was the ones that were closing the bloody deals for them because they couldn't talk to finance. So they sent
right.
me out to the Mennonite community, and I learned because I told them I didn't know all the answers to what they were asking. They said, "Well, work it out," and we made a deal to do it. And so I get it. I get it, and it makes life more interesting
It
too.
sure does. It sure does.
So last couple of things really quick. I mean, I can tell what inspired you to write your book, and tell everybody the name of your book.
Name of my book, I got it right here, actually.
Of course, who would have thought?
I don't know if you can see it.
Of course,
Shift.
you can see it. Yeah, little in front of your face. There, much better. I can see it now.
I wrote this book for one reason and one reason only. My kids came to me and they said, there's going to be great grandchildren someday who will never know Papa Jay. And no one is ever going to be able to tell the Ray Sprinkle story, the George Nadaff story. I got a whole bunch of stories I've been teaching and sharing with my children and audiences for 50 years now. They said, if you don't put it down, it disappears. So about 7 months ago, breaking the action, I'm semi-retired. I'm teaching pickleball to, believe it or not, champions. Champions. My kids are on TV. Anyway, at the end of the day, I had some time and I started writing this thing. And pretty soon I realized, you know what? These stories are fun to write, but there are patterns here. Credentials are
Exactly.
overrated, no small moments, it's never too late to begin. All of that stuff became clear. And I thought, you know what? Even though I'm an Altacaca, I will build a new training program for the future entrepreneurs of the world. I'm going to do an online course because I know all about that stuff. And so that's why I wrote the book.
You should open up a store and sell this stuff.
Yeah.
So I have one more question, and I love your energy. And there should always be no reason not to start over again because what's the alternative? What is the alternative? And so with everything that's happened in our lives and COVID, there was a big thing too. And sometimes it feels like yesterday, and to some people it feels like also years ago at the same time. What are you most grateful for, and what are you most hopeful for?
I am most grateful for the unconditional love that I got from my mom and dad. My mom and dad came from the school of thought where if I defecated in the middle of the room, my mother would say, "That's a piece of art." Is that the loveliest formation you've ever seen? Every day of my life, I got that from my mom and dad. Every day. The thing I miss most about my mom and dad is I would be able to tell them sales victory stories 100 times. They'd hear the same fakakta story, but my father would quell every single time, like he was hearing it for the first time. And the loss of that, you can't replace that. I'm trying to be that, by the way, for my three kids, for my three grandchildren.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And what are you most hopeful for?
I am hopeful that somebody somewhere will pick up. I don't know if this little new business of mine, I've only sold 60 copies of the book in the first 30 days. I don't even care. But somebody wrote me, Ingrid Hardy, a pickleball student of mine, former nationally ranked NCAA Division I African American lady basketball player, read the book and she said it changed her life. She's already very successful. She's married to a very successful husband, but she saw an opening to create some changes to create an even new and improved life. And you know what the Hasids say, change one life, and you have met God's requirement. That's my mission.
Yeah, no, I love it. And all you need is one person to believe in you, and things happen. Hey, listen, I'm grateful and hopeful for the same thing. Well, I'm grateful that I have a new friend, so that's cool. That's you, by the way. And, just clarifying. And I'm also hopeful because you are a leader who cares, and we need more. People are craving for caring in this world we're in today. So thanks for being that. Thanks for being on the series and for bringing the positive energy to the table. And we need more laughter, and thanks for providing that too. Really appreciate it.
All right. God bless. Thank you.